Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Erica Bariga. I'm a watercolor illustrator, painter, and I teach how to paint with watercolors as well. And I have been wanting to do that full time for a very long time. Um, and I just never did it. I never really went for it. I always had other things happening, or there were other things going on in the world. And so I wanted to share because it has been, I counted as 5 years since I had my quit day from my corporate career and decided to go full force into creativity. So I have a website, fluximagery.com. I have an art club called the Playful Painter Art Club, and you can check those things out on my website. Really fun. But so what had happened was I worked corporate. I went up the ranks there while I was still going to school. I went to school for photojournalism and digital media. And I really loved illustration, but I couldn't find any courses, classes, anything like that that really taught about illustration and specifically children's illustration. It was always like fine art, mostly fine art, really, and definitely not watercolor, which is my medium of choice right now, media of choice. So let's see. I went to school at the same time. I pursued my photojournalism because I knew that I wanted to have something that I really wanted to learn photography. I really wanted to learn art. And I knew that communications was a big deal. Like communications you can take with you anywhere, right? So I love pursuing that. And I never felt like I could completely do that and also have a life, make a living for myself. I didn't know how to do like the business part of it. I knew how to create, and I was always growing in my art skills and style. So I just kept working, and I love both. I love technical things, telecommunications, all that kind of stuff. So it's like I just had these two worlds where I kept straddling both for as long as I could handle it. Excuse me. So I had my full my full course load, full-time hours of being a student, and worked 40 hours a week as well, and just continued that and continued that. Graduated, and then I still didn't know really how to apply things in the real world. And also, that was when it was the dot-com bubble. So even though I was working in telecommunications at a really good company, I just was like, I'm kind of scared because, Silicon Valley people and like the dot coms and the startups are really going through it right now. So I'm not really trying to do all that. So I want to do things at the same time, just dip my toe in, dip my toe in. And then it was 2008, and the housing market, we had a recession, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I just was really like buckling down. I was like, absolutely not am I going to take a risk or anything like that. That's crazy. So the years went by. I just kept going up the chain. I liked what I was doing, and I would still create on the side. And I believe, we were just making dreams come true over here. I was single, fully, I was just independent, doing my thing. Then got in a relationship, met my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and then that turned to fiance, and then we were planning the wedding and all that good stuff. So all that was great. And then we wanted a house, so we did that. And just piled on the responsibilities was like making me very risk averse of like, let me go and do my completely creative thing, because I don't want to just have everything implode. I love where I was going with things, right? So and then we started thinking about having a family, and I was still wanted to do my art, so I was doing it. And I believe that was when I was really like, okay, I really need to make this happen. And I really wanted to pursue it like for real. So there was the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and they had their conference in New York in 2010. So I flew out there by myself, and it was amazing. It was incredible just being around, all these creatives, and they were talking about, things just completely geared to writers, and the other things that were completely geared to illustrators, and it was just really, really cool. And so I was just like, man, this could really happen. I don't know. I don't know. And that was when things really started sparking for me, and thinking that maybe I could do this. And, I showed my portfolio I had a portfolio review, and I got really good feedback from that. And I kept posting a lot to my website. I was doing the blog thing. I can't remember if that was like when Instagram started, when I really started to get into Instagram. It was mostly photos and such, but I've been on there like forever. That's like my oldest platform, I think, social media platform. And then, so we still, we were kind of like at a good place. It was like, okay, let's have kids. And I was still going up the ranks, and I made a switch from like working on the like call center floor to being a part of management. So I was just like more responsibility and such. And I love that. So I just was really, focusing on that, and really trying to get through. So I really understood my job. And then I was still, wanted to be creative. And then, so I would draw, I would paint, I would do things on the side. Anything that was like a local event, I would go to that, and just get fed, with that creative juice, that creative vibe. And so I can't even like keep all the years straight. I just know that I was in a business course, and we needed to pitch ourselves. That was one of the challenges. So you needed to pitch yourself to other companies, any opportunity, right? I mean, like as small as like, hey, I need help with something around the house or something, like I'm going to pitch this solution to my husband or whatever, something like that. So I was like, okay, let's see if I can do this. So I'm like working, I'm doing all the stuff, and I'm like working on my assignment. And I mean, there was a huge trip, there was a huge prize if you were able to do this and be one of the top 4 or 5 to do the best pitch and pray things. And so I went and did that, and I didn't have very high expectations. I was just like, okay, I did it. I really jumped out of my comfort zone. This was really hard, because at this point, we're fast forwarding, right? We have babies at this point, right? We have 2 little girls, and they are 3 and 5. And like motherhood was just a whirlwind. No. 2 and 5. So I was like new motherhood, doing my job where I was pretty much like a new position for me in that whole arena of management, and like trying to figure out all the things, right? Because I went from completely independent Erica to, responsibilities, checklists, like, caring of little humans, trying to partner with my husband about this and that, and trying to like figure that out and all this kind of stuff, right? So I was like, I don't even think I'm going to be able to do this pitch and pray. Like, this is a big ask. That was really hard. I mean, toddlers in lap and all this kind of stuff, where I was just like writing up things and coming up with ideas of like how I could pitch, what I would pitch, how I would make things be beneficial. Because I was guilty of that. Like, if I thought that, I could work with somebody, I would just kind of be like, I do this and this, like, I like to work with you. And I wouldn't really say like the benefit of working with me and like have a full on solution in my pitch. And that's like huge. So I had no idea. I felt like there were all these things that were like so hidden. I was doing the most, and I had no idea that I was missing out on so many levels. So I did that. I did the pitch and pray, and I ended up winning, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, the trip, there was a. I'm like telling the story all out of order. I'm sorry, but anywho, the goal was to do the pitch, and you had to have like, I think there were like four different pitches or something, and you can choose, or you could do all of them, and I did all of them, and that was really hard. Like I was so exhausted, and I got it done. And the main trip, the main prize, gosh, I keep saying trip, the main prize was to go on an all expense paid trip to Cancun for like 2 days. I didn't even know the duration, right? But I had never been apart from the kids. Like it was just like full time, just jumped in, and I didn't have any breaks like that. So that was like a big motivator. I was like, oh my gosh, a trip, and we wouldn't have to pay for anything. And oh my gosh, and it was just me, and I couldn't believe it. So I really wanted that, and I really wanted to surprise myself. And so that happened, and that was like I finally had room to breathe, and things were just really quiet. And I was like, oh my gosh. So went on that trip. It was amazing, and I could actually like hear myself think and figure out like, can I really do this? And then you were also being coached by the business coach, like about, here's how I see your business, and you can go in this direction and things like that. So that was amazing, to be with like such high achievers in this creative field. And there were two ladies that won as well, and they were like lawyers in the lawyer space, and I couldn't believe that. And they were really trying to branch out into business too. And I mean, these were some bright minds, So it was really, really cool. And then so came back home, and I was like on fire, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what are my next steps? Like, I got to make this happen. And one of those things, the whole new parenthood, new motherhood, I felt like I was really looking outside of myself. I didn't feel as secure in myself. I just lost touch in how I felt. Things that should be easy to say, I couldn't really say. Like if I went to the doctor and I was just like, yeah, I don't feel well, and they'd be like, how long has this been happening? How long have you felt this way? And I was like, I really don't know. But I could tell you, to the date, to the letter, about my kids, my daughters, about my husband. This started happening, and this. But when it came to me, it was like a blank. Like, what do you want? How do you feel? I don't know. And I just completely was just like losing touch, and I didn't like that. And one of the things that really make me feel like me is when I create, because that taps me into solo me, ever since I was a baby and a little girl, and all that was something that I absolutely loved, and I still love. So I didn't want to let that go, and other things just kept getting bigger and bigger and kind of like encroaching on that. And I just couldn't see, you mean they were 5 and 2, and I was like, I don't see me finally getting back to art at like 18, when they're 18 or older, and having them completely not see that part of my identity until way in the future. And who knows what's going to happen way in the future, right? It's like you can't really do that. It's really kind of scary sometimes, like some older people shake and things like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just didn't want to do that. I was like, I'm going to make it work. So I would always, paint with them, draw with them, create with them, try to work on my own thing as well. There was a big project that I worked on before they were born, before my oldest was even born. I worked on an alphabet project because I didn't know how to like project manage and like really work on something, start something and finish it in a creative space. I would just kind of like just keep going, and never just like end it, learn from that project and move on and do something else. I would just get enamored and immersed in what I was doing, and it would have no end. And that's not a a good way to be. You know, you have to do it, wrap it up, move on. So I really couldn't merge that. Since I was in telecommunications, we do that all the time. I do my art, and I was just kind of like, I couldn't really merge them together. I just didn't see it as ever a complete project and move on. So I thought that I could do something that already has a beginning and end, the alphabet, and something that could have like writing with it. So I went through the whole alphabet with little young readers in mind, because my kids were young readers. So I was saying, you know, A is for apple. A is for apple, and apple flies through the air in an airplane, something like that. And I love that book. And yeah, it ended up turning into a book. Because at first I had it as a project as flashcards, and to really push my composition, push my character, push my storytelling. And then I have a friend who writes these ebooks like crazy. Like, she's just brilliant. And so she helped me with getting mine published. She was like, yours could be a book. All you have to do is format it and get it this way, and I have someone that you could talk to, and would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely yes. So I was able to get that published, and it's called Queen Quail is Quiet. It's on Amazon. And when I got that book published, I had to get a picture quickly to go inside the book, and it's a picture of me holding my oldest daughter when she's a baby. So she's like, you know, it's like we're both like looking at you. I'm kind of like hiding behind her. You can just see my eyes. So so that was like another really cool project, and that's my biggest project that I had under my belt at that point. So I had that published, and then I went to Cancun, and I had that talk, and I was really, really fired up, and I wanted to have more projects. I wanted to do more things. So I was just trying to figure out like how this could happen, how I can still do both, because I've never been a really risky person. You know, I've always believed in, you go to school, you go to high school, you go to college, you move on, and you know, do the things that you're like lined up to do. I don't know how to do any of that other stuff that's off the beaten path. So I was kind of really terrified, and it was like, dang, why am I getting so risky now that we have like kids, and like we've signed paperwork for a place to live and things like that, you know? Like, why couldn't I do this when it was just me, you know? And but of course there was a recession and all this kind of stuff. So like, you know, hindsight's 2020. So anyway, after that, I was like, that was 2017, and that was when I was really like, okay, I've got to make this happen, because I do not like myself without art in my life. I loved my job, but things were getting really, really stressful, and there were, with the, you know, I don't know if you've heard of working women having two jobs, really. They have their main job when they go out, if they work outside the home, and then when they come home, it's like time for job number two, and they go and do all that kind of stuff. And that's what I was doing, and it was really exhausting, and I had no time for my art at all. And so I finally was just like, okay, I just need to sit down. And I think someone had said, you know, you make the time. If there's something that you really want, you make the time. You look at your calendar, you have time on your calendar, you need to just make it work. So I looked, and I was like, okay, the only really time that I could really make this work is on my lunch break. That's it. I have my lunch, and I have my two breaks, my two 15-minute breaks, 30-minute lunch. And I said, okay, I will just paint there. I'll have to paint at work. Which is like so uncomfortable, because I mean, it was corporate, right? And like no one does that. They use their lunch break to eat, to talk, to network, whatever. No one's bringing down their paints and painting in like a fishbowl cafeteria. So I was like, oh gosh. So, but I knew I had to, because I had no other time to do it, and I was like losing it. So I packed my stuff up. I had my plan for the next day. I go and I bring my backpack. I go down to the cafeteria. It comes lunchtime. I ate at my desk, so I did eat, but and I was pumping and all this kind of stuff. And so when it came to my lunch, I was like, well, went down there. I started painting. And I was just like, I'm just going to zone out. And in the beginning, there were some curious peeps like, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, that's so cute and things. And I was like, nothing, just painting. And then that kind of died down. But it was totally worth it, though, because I connected to me and I'd totally forgotten that part of me, like how good it feels to just zone out. And you can't think about anything else. There were no grocery lists. There was nothing that needed to get done that was popping in my head. It was overridden with you are being present right now, with painting, with what's happening on the paper. And so I just wanted more and more and more of that. So that like really got me through a time when I was really just needed a creative outlet, because everything for a long time, it was just basically like, do, make dinner, get up, go to work, commute here, go there, get this done, buy these new diapers, get this, everything was a task list, and it just, get it done, and not any real free space, in my schedule at all. So yeah, that was like 2017. And then I was really making a plan, like, I gotta move on. I gotta make this happen. And if it's not gonna happen now, when is it gonna happen? So I just kept thinking it through, having lots of conversations. And finally, I had my quit day in late September 2019. So I was so excited. I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was just like, because there's no going back. The door's always open, but when you make a major move like that, you don't see what's on the other side. You either have to stay here or you walk through the door and then you see what's over there. That's just the way that it is. And that can be a beautiful thing, and I really wanted to be with my kids. They're only young, little, teeny tiny things for a very little amount of time. It feels long day to day, but it is really, really short. So I was very excited for my new schedule, my new life. So I had my quit day, and then it was October. So next month was October, and it was like different because we had fall break, and I didn't really have any normalcy. Then it was November, and we had Thanksgiving, and then it was December, and we had winter break, and then so I just really didn't get a good idea of like what my actual schedule was going to really look like. And then it was January, and that was still kind of weird because we still had the long break running into January, and we had family that came out during that time, so which was really cool. But then things started getting weird because it was 2020, and we're like hearing about people getting sick, and like this is kind of serious, and what's going on, and then and so that was the last year of my youngest daughter's time in daycare. And because I also didn't want to leave until she was at least 5. So, because we needed to pay for daycare. And I couldn't create with little ones here nonstop at that point. So, hit that marker, was very excited, and also the expense. Like, I'm not going to leave my job and still be able to pay daycare. Like, that's crazy for us. So that had to go, and then that was just the natural ending, right? And then February, March, it got really crazy, and all of a sudden she was out. Like, we heard about the pandemic, and she was out of daycare, and they were just like, we're just going to see how this goes. And the next thing you know, they were like, we're closing it indefinitely. We don't know what this is. And then, so I went from seeing my family like 2 hours out of the day to 24/7 for like a year and a half. And it was wild. So and that was when I was supposed to be working on my business. So for a little bit, for about 3 or 4 months, I really just like kept going really hard in my business and was really trying to do things at the same time. Remote school and work on my business and work out and all this kind of stuff with us all here, and with like my heart like freaking out from like what is going on in the world, death trackers and all that kind of stuff. So that was nuts. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow, I waited all this time. I hem and hawed about this about this choice. I finally made this choice and the world crumbles. It was like, what is happening? So, so that's why I don't really count the first year as a really productive year in my business, because that was just a wild card. So that was 2020. Then 2021, I think like towards the end of 2020, I got a business coach again and learned about memberships, because I had a Patreon and I just was doing so much for so small. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just kind of like, when you're an artist, sometimes you get into the validation part and you're just like so happy that anybody's interested in your art that you don't really look at the pricing model. And like every month I just had all these deliverables and I would give it, and it was like for the smallest amount, and that was not sustainable. So I heard about memberships and I was like, ooh, I can learn about that. And I loved that that was, recurring revenue. So I looked into that, and then I just went building. I bought that and I just started learning and building. And so 2020, like end of 2020 to like all 2021 was like building my membership. So I did that. And then I had members. At one point, I had like 15, 20 members, I think. And it was just so cool. Like, everybody's learning watercolor painting. We're painting together live. It was just really, really fun. And so I just continued with that. And then I think, because I have notes here, just a second. So 2021, I was working on the Playful Painter Art Club, and I just continued with that. And then also, like, I need to be like really secure when I make a jump like that, a leap like that. So I made sure that like our car was paid off, like major things were like done. And that was like my biggest fear, was having something like medically happen. Cause I mean, we have a little kid. So I was like, oh my gosh, like don't break an arm. Don't do anything like that. So I was like kind of freaking out, always in the background of that, of any growth that I had. So, we had paid off a car. It was awesome. And so then 2023 happened, and my youngest daughter has her birthday in February. And I was just like working on the business, trying to get things done. And we have her birthday party at like this play place. And we had all her gifts there. And then all of a sudden her gifts were not there. And I'm like, what is happening? Where are her gifts? And I thought that my husband moved them to the car. And he's like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Because they're not here. And come to find out that someone stole the gifts. All the gifts. Popped the balloons. They had them on the security footage, thank God. And so, yeah, that was like devastating. And that like really soured my mood a lot. So that happened. Then I just kept working, trying to really work on my business. And like, I worked in art prints. But ever since 2020, I didn't like to do things that were very supply chain based. And also I needed to have things open, because one of the things that I really wanted to do with the kids is like have them more involved in things. And when I was doing the corporate stuff, they really couldn't be, because we had like absolutely no time for them to do any of that kind of stuff, taekwondo, ballet, and none of that. So I wanted to have space for that. And if I'm getting like orders and I have to cut and ship and all this kind of stuff, that kind of goes away. So I really loved the openness of an art membership. So I stuck with that and just worked on making that better and better and better. And no matter like devastation and things like that, like with the birthday party. So then 2020, 2023 came, and we hear, because I'm in Denver, Colorado, we hear about a lot of people having their car stolen because our car was a Kia Sportage. And so I'm like still not okay with even going outside a whole bunch because we're still like in the panini, like, era. So I'm kind of like dipping my toe back outside and trying to get out. And then to have like outside forces come in with like having our presents stolen. One time I go and I pick up my daughters and drop off my oldest here at home. I take my youngest because she's really craving Qdoba. I was like, okay, cool. So her and we go to Qdoba. We go in the Kia. Everything's fine. We park. We go through the line. By the time there's like no one in there, by the time we go to sit down and wait for our food, someone's coming into the Qdoba and saying, hey, were you driving that Kia? I was like, yeah. He's like, someone just drove off with it. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I don't want to ever experience that again. I go and I check, and someone had indeed stolen my car. So I am like really freaking out at this point. And just like having those things happen and just like having like, you just have to deal with them and you don't get like, paid time off or like any, like if you don't work, you're not building. I just kept seeing everything in the negative, and already. And then with that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be a ripple effect for a very long time. Like we're going to need to get another car. This is ridiculous. I cannot believe this. So, and I don't have time for this. I'm supposed to be building a business. Like, thanks a lot, right? So dealt with that. And then 2024, we're finally getting back on our feet. We're paying for a car that we did not plan on paying for. And then it's June and my husband goes to work because he's finally like outside the house. So he was like kind of doing like work from home for a long time. And then he started doing a hybrid model. So he went to the office one day and he was back in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I'm like, why are you here? And he's like, well, I just got laid off. And I'm like, no. Worst case scenario, right? That's like, I couldn't even believe that. So June 2024, that happens. And I'm like, we're dealing through that. We're figuring it out. And I basically, I think before that, because I'm a God girl. So actually, I think it was, October 2023. Because I was getting bitter. I was getting really bitter in my heart. And I was just like, why? I know I had this in my heart for a reason. I've connected with so many people through art. And this is something that I absolutely loved. And I knew spending all my time in it was going to be amazing. So like, what is the deal, right? And so, it was February 2023, my daughter's birthday situation, right? That happened. And I was just powering through, I would get to a certain point of productivity and then it would be summertime and both the kids would be home and I didn't want to miss out on being with them. So my productivity in my business would like go down and into a dip and stuff. So I think, after they went back to school in August, and then I was thinking about September and I just really was like really trying to get back into my groove again. And then when it hit October, I was like, hold up. What would be the biggest benefit? I was like, if I just keep going in my business, or I need to look at our finances. I need to get more financially literate. I can just spend this time to act like I am in college for financial literacy, learn as much as I can, and work on that. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to work on that. So I completely like read books. I love, what was it called? I will teach you to be rich by Ramit Sethi. And financial feminism as well. So many books. I can't even like remember them all, but I'm gonna try to remember them and I can link them down below. So yeah, I just went into that and was just like, okay, we need to do something that's going to last even past the business and not just completely focus on that, like look at money in a whole different light. So I focused on that. And that was such a blessing because when he got laid off, we were such in a much better place, and we just understood how everything worked and what our cash flow was, and we could pivot like immediately and just understand what is going on instead of flying a little blind, you know. So that was like a huge blessing. Oh my gosh. If you do not really know like what is going on with your stuff because you're either, you know, burnt out, you didn't have the capacity, you were focusing on other things, like please focus on that, figure it out, and understand like what living below your means really means and all that kind of stuff. Like really understand it. So I got that done, and let me see my notes. So yeah, in 2024, he was laid off, and I really like the last thing I wanted to do was to work for someone else. I did want to get into someone else's atmosphere, you know, because that's just a whole other thing. I'm like, oh gosh, this is just something else that I need to manage and figure out and really understand. I can't just keep saying, well, I said I could work Mondays, but I actually can't. And like, you know, not knowing what you can possibly really do. So I'm like, okay, if I have to do this, I have to really understand what I'm getting into so that I'm not, you know, being let go like immediately because they're like, girl, we hired you to work this amount and you cannot do it at all. So I never put myself in that position. I need to know. I need to have everything figured out before I go into things like that. So I did my research. I was like, is this a good fit? Is this a good fit? Definitely. And this is a whole new thing. I'm like, I kind of was like, did I make myself into like the worst employee ever? Because I've worked for myself. I've seen the light. I know what it's like to just be able to go run an errand if I want to, do this if I want to, go based off of my feelings, you know, what I want to focus on that day, even if I had a different plan. You know, I can focus on something else and focus back on that other project tomorrow, you know? So I'm just like, can I take direction? I don't know. I can take direction. It's okay. So I figured it out. I had my like list of things and I went and applied. I almost was a bartender. I was like, ooh, you know, because I was a lot of the messaging around the time of like 2017 and such was very much, you know, quit your job and, you know, go 100%, be an entrepreneur and all this kind of stuff. And not a whole bunch of like, you can do part-time and you can do the thing. Like, you don't have to do all or nothing. And now I'm like really team half and half, big time. So looking for part-time, I was like, ooh, I could be a bartender. And I thought, you know, maybe the hours, working that late and all this kind of stuff, like the nightlife, blah, blah. If I'm going to do it, like now's the time to do it, right? So I went and like applied at places like that. I've never worked in like service, but I was like, I can learn, you know, cheese me, whatever. So I started learning how to make drinks and all kind of stuff. And that didn't really go very far, but now I did apply to be a driving instructor. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Because now I really know what I love. And I really wanted to have things that like aligned. So part of what I really love about my art club is that I'm teaching, and I'm teaching something that I absolutely love. And like, it has such a huge benefit in so many different ways. Being creative, having that outlet, having peace, surprising yourself, you know, being empowered, setting boundaries, you know, letting other people know, hey, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Just being bold in that way and not just being like, sure, whatever it is you want, and I'll figure out how to paint on my own time. Like, no, you say you want to paint and that's okay. You can do that, right? So I love like talking like one-on-one like that. And that was another thing. I was so lonely. I was so lonely. It can be so just isolating to work completely by yourself. I had never done that in my life. So it has its pros and it has its cons for sure. And it's funny because like before the world shut down, I was really like really lonely too because I was like, man, my husband's gone for 40 hours and the kids are gone like a lot of the day, and I'm just like hustling, hustling, hustling. Like there were so many times I didn't even eat breakfast or anything. I just woke up because I was like, this is my dream. I'm making it work. Like I said all these things. I need to make it happen. I'm not just gonna, hang out. So I just worked and worked and worked really, really hard. And so yeah, that was like a big adjustment, but I was so lonely. I didn't, man, I need to be around people. And so like I made a lot of friends, like parent the friends of the parents of my kids' friends. Oh my gosh. So like I love them so much, and I just found community, and you will find community no matter what. It's just you had to be more intentional about it. I could easily just be like a church mouse and just like really really quiet and not put myself out there, but I did, and like it just looks so much like life just looks so much different than it used to. So yeah, I was so ready to be seen as me, just me, because that's the other thing is like you leave those environments and then you work for yourself at home. And if you're a mom and you're a wife, those are like the most important relationships. So everything's like high stakes, It's not just like working with a coworker and then coming home and they just see me as Erica and I just see them as Joe. And then we have our cordial thing and then we go like we have no history, you know what I mean? And it's so beautiful. It's like I just want to be seen as a person, just me, and I just want to see just you, and not that this can flow into a whole other thing, with parenthood and with marriage. It's like, oh my gosh. So now I'm a driving instructor as well, and I love it so much. And man, these like 15 to my favorites are like the 15 to 16 and a half are just like so much fun. They're just go-getters, like just their personalities, what they're doing, they're just focused, and it's just really a joy. And I love being able to like help them in something that's like a huge rite of passage, as big as driving, And so I just love it so much. And so I've been doing that. I've been accepting that I can still have my art career, but also I can do it part-time with working for someone else. And now that I understand like how businesses work so much, I'm just like, put me in, coach. Like, what do you need me to do? Like, I love working with other people and just like tell me your M&Ps, give me step by step, because I have to do it all for myself in my own business. It's like, oh my gosh, please tell me what to do. I want to be a part of a team environment. What's the goal? Let's go. Let's get it. And I love that so much. And then it helps me to, then work by myself in my art and stuff and stay focused too. So I just love it. But I wanted to commemorate this. I want to share this, share my story. Hopefully it inspires you. I wanted to give a big update. I can't believe it. So even though it is 2025 and I had my quit day, it is late September, because today is the 26th. It's my husband's birthday. I had my quit day on September 27th. I did that intentionally on 2019, that year. And tomorrow is September 27th, 2025. So it has really been 6 years, but I count it as 5 because that first year was a doozy. So I can't believe it. It's been 5 years. I made my dream come true. Everything is different and for the better. Even though those crazy things happened, it is for the better. We appreciate and are so grateful for everything that we have, our relationship with our kids, being able to have the time that we have, the flexibility. It's priceless. I've been there where I just worked nonstop and I had time for being with them. But what that looked like was feeding them, bathing them, bedtime, let's go, you know. And now I actually have pockets where we can be with each other, you know, play switch, not be super stressed from outside forces as much as we were before. So that all comes back to listening to my heart, my creativity, tapping into that, pursuing it, sharing it, connecting with others through it, and because of that, because I spent my 30-minute lunch and my 15-minute breaks, and I reintroduced watercolor into my life, and I didn't just abandon it and also abandon a part of me that I really, really love for years and years, double digit years, out of sacrifice as a mom or what have you, or as an adult. Like, I'm grown. Grown people don't have time to paint. Like, we have bills to pay. I wasn't about to do that. And it's been such a blessing that I didn't. So if there's part of you that doesn't have any creativity in your life, or you were also wanted to pursue your own thing, you do have creativity in your life and you want to pursue it further, like, I just wanted to add my story to the mix, for food for thought for you and to help you in any decisions you want to make, because I wish someone had told me their perspective in this way as well. I've heard other stories and they've been so great. So again, my name is Erica Bariga. My website is fluximagery.com, and my art membership is the Playful Painter Art Club. And I teach you everything from supplies and materials and beginning brushstrokes to full projects, and it's really, really fun. So if you're interested, I'd love it if you come join me. You can just join it, and you can join like right now. You can go and you can join, and if you ever want to leave, you can leave at any time too. But it's really cool. I love having community with people over common things, and especially when that common thing is watercolor. So it's really fun. All right. I will talk to you later. I'll be around more, I promise. But yeah, talk to you later. Bye.